Hello and welcome to our second episode of the Collaborative Approach in Education, where we delve into the world of early childhood education and care. I'm Katie and I'm joined by my co-hosts Tammy and Danny, and in this episode we aim to offer you a glimpse into our experience, passion and dedication that drive our work in the early childhood sector. Okay, so I'm going to start off today's episode. My name is Katie and I've been in the early childhood sector for just over 16 years. I have two little girls, Winter, who is 2 years old, and Willow, who is 8 months old. And I live here on the Gold Coast with my husband. I moved here from New Zealand in 2013. I completed my Bachelor of Teaching and Learning, which was specialised in early childhood education at the University of Canterbury in Christchurch, New Zealand. I moved over here in 2013. To be honest, I was quite naive coming over here thinking that Australia, being a larger country, would be a lot further ahead in early childhood, but was honestly quite shocked at how far behind they were in comparison to New Zealand. I think one of the biggest things was that New Zealand has obviously had Te Whāriki, which is our New Zealand early childhood curriculum since 1996, whereas I came over here and Australia had only just developed the early years learning framework, and prior to that didn't really have a framework for early childhood. Everyone was sort of still trying to get their heads around that, and yeah, it was really different and quite difficult. And also coming over here, being an early childhood teacher and being the only bachelor qualified teacher in a service was quite challenging. In New Zealand, majority of people are either diploma or bachelor qualified, and you can teach any age group with a bachelor. In New Zealand, I've taught from babies right through until kindergarten age, and yeah, to come here and be the only bachelor qualified teacher in a service was quite challenging. I just didn't really feel like I had anyone to kind of bounce ideas off. Well, not so much bounce ideas off, but I just didn't feel like I was having the conversations that I was in comparison to the ones that I was having in New Zealand, because the training is quite in depth in New Zealand in regards to early childhood. Whereas I found here a lot of the early childhood teachers I was speaking to were more primary based in their qualifications. So yeah, there was a bit of a disconnect there, and you know, differences in opinion on what early childhood should look like for those older, the 4 to 5 year olds, which is obviously what I was teaching here in Australia. So yeah, it was quite different. It's definitely been challenging, but like anything, there's been some absolutely amazing points as well, and I have seen such an improvement in the quality of early childhood education and care in the 11 years, almost 12 years that I have lived here, which is amazing to see. Um, yeah, so obviously working in early childhood in the sector, it's a bit of a roller coaster of a ride with lots of challenges and rewards. Um, from managing the classroom dynamics, which can at times be honestly best described as herding cats while juggling flaming torches, um, challenging but oddly exhilarating, to celebrating the tiniest milestones, whether it's a child mastering putting their shoes on and their socks on, or learning to share with a friend. I feel these achievements are really the bricks and that build the foundation for a lifetime of learning, and I feel so honoured to be part of it. I really find it so rewarding. Um, so a little bit about what I've been doing the last few years. So I have been working at a private school for it was about 8 years, with 2 maternity leaves in the midst of that. I was an early childhood teacher and an educational leader. During my time there, I developed a educational leader network here on the Gold Coast. I could really see a need for educational leaders to, have that support of others, and to work in collaboration and, bounce ideas off. And there wasn't really a lot out there about the role until recently. On ASEQA, it was very much, the basically the view was that you oversaw quality area one. Whereas, look, personally, I see the educational leader role as overseeing all 7 quality areas. And I was really passionate about getting that out there. And I feel that, you know, I was just really passionate about really driving quality education. And I think that, the educational leader's role is such an important one. So, yeah, I developed that network. I've recently handed that over to an amazing company who are continuing that on for me. I'm still very much part of the network, but I just don't have the time, unfortunately, with 2 little ones anymore. Um, so I have recently resigned from my position within the school, and I am now working for a amazing management company who oversee services throughout Australia. And I am now the early childhood quality coordinator, and I'm so excited to be able to, really drive quality education on a broader scale. Um, they're a really passionate and amazing company to work for. And yeah, I'm just really excited to see where it can take us. So, yeah, in 2019, I started my own consultancy business, which was to help support services with professional development, and I really enjoyed that. Going around to services and providing workshops in areas that they needed, and also mentoring teachers, educational leaders, being able to go in there and support them with rating and assessment and helping them look into their quality improvement plans. It was awesome. But then, of course, COVID hit and that sort of stopped, and I had my first daughter, and I haven't really picked it up again since. And to be honest, I don't really have the time. So, to have this opportunity to do a podcast with Tammy and Danny is amazing because, it just, like, I'm always looking at ways to, get quality happening in early childhood, and I'm all about trying to find innovative ways to do that. So, yeah, I hope that gives you a little glimpse into a little bit about myself and my career and the things that I'm passionate about within early childhood education and care. I'm going to pass you off on to Tammy now.
Hello, my name's Tammy, and I have been in the education care sector for 16 years now, and I've got 2 beautiful boys aged 4 and 6. A little bit about me and where I started in the childcare industry. I actually had no intention of becoming a childcare educator. I studied my 4-year Bachelor of Primary School, and in my 4th year in my prac, I had a lot of doubts about becoming a primary school teacher. I found that there was a lot of theory that didn't match the prac. Then when I was on prac, everything I taught was really governed by the curriculum, and I almost felt a bit like a robot teaching it. I felt that I had to work really hard to ensure that there was creativity in my lessons to keep them interesting, because the curriculum was so set and it was just so fast paced. During my 4th year at uni, I had a passion for health, nutrition and fitness. I was studying full time, doing my prac and doing group fitness training sessions before and after my school pracs. I almost almost pulled out of uni altogether in my 4th year, but I had my mum in my ear reminding me, you're so close to finishing, you may as well just finish it now. So I did. So I completed my degree in September of 2010, and that's when I found childcare, and I found out that they needed a early childhood teacher. And because there were new regulations coming in, and every kindergarten needed a bachelor trained teacher, I decided to give this a go. To do this though, I needed to complete a bridging course because I had little to none any knowledge of 5 years and under. So I remember when I started my first job as an ECT in my role, it was a new role, and all the other educators had really strong opinions about me coming in and what, that kind of meant. And I'd often hear things like, she's getting paid more than me, and she doesn't even know what she's doing. She's never worked in childcare before. And this didn't really set me up to have a positive start to my first real full-time teaching job. The educators were judging me before they even got to know me, and they weren't really willing to give me a chance. And it turned out some of the staff really tried to purposely set me up to fail. Over the time, my confidence grew, and when I heard people say things like that, I would, just gently remind them that I have done 4 years of uni. I did 16 weeks of unpaid pracs, and I also have a HECS debt, and that I was here to learn, and I was here for the children, and that I am open to learning and, getting my hands dirty and getting some real world experience. So I remember my first day that I walked into my childcare that I was working at, and it was morning tea time, and this child had climbed under the table, and her back had knocked this long bench seat that was about 2 meters long, and the whole seat tipped and it came down on her feet and it broke all of her toes. So I immediately pick up this child, and there was so much blood, I had no idea what to do with her. I was holding this 4-year-old child in the air with blood pouring out of her feet, and I didn't know where to take her, what to do, where the first aid kit. And in that moment, I really did realize we are so much more than educators. So when I started childcare, I really didn't like it. The children and the parents were so much more reliant on me than I'd experienced at school, and the centre's expectations seemed so backwards. There was so much paperwork, and everyone was trying to create more paperwork, more stress, and all these really unrealistic expectations. I had many run-ins with the parents and management team, and I thought, I don't really want to be in a job where I don't feel like I've got freedom and I'm just continually under this pressure and unrealistic expectations. I was speaking to a friend of mine about my current work situation, and he put me in touch with one of his friends that also owned a centre. And after meeting up with her, she offered me a job, and I didn't take it at first because I was so committed to my children that I had that year, that I wanted to see the year out. But after working there for another 2 weeks, I was just miserable, and it wasn't good for me, wasn't good for the children. So I decided to make the move and move on to the new service. It was there that I realized that all the centres, they run so differently and they have their individual approaches. And in this service, I had a really good collaboration with the owner of the service, and we, made lots of improvements to how the program was run and just the day-to-days. I really got to advocate for the educators, and we really just simplified everything. So it wasn't long after that that I then became the early childhood teacher and director, so I was doing both roles. And this is where I found that I was really passionate. I really loved educating the team and finding ways to create a better working environment where both the educators and children and the families were all able to thrive. So after that, I had my 2 beautiful children and went on maternity leave and worked in between having them. And when my second child was born, we had lots of complications. So I decided I wanted to be in a workplace that took under 15 months old, because the current one that I was at only took 15 months and older. So I applied for a brand new centre, which is my current centre, and I applied for the director role and I was unsuccessful at first. However, they hired me as the educational leader, and after I'd been there for 2 weeks, the management team came and saw me and they asked me if I'd reconsider taking the director's role. So I took on the challenge, and it was a massive challenge. I think I really underestimated taking on a brand new service, and building a team from the ground up was hard work, and coming up with all the processes and what worked for the team and how we're going to run the program. I had a massive vision for the service, and I really wanted our care and education program to stand out and to deliver high quality. So it's taken me, a bit over 2 years with plenty of trial and error, but we're finally in the refining stages. And we went through assessment and rating after 1.5 years of being opened, and we got exceeding in all 7 areas. So it really cemented that, doing it simple and listening to the educators and the children's needs is what should, our sector should be all about. My educators have given me constant feedback over the years, and this has opened up lots of change, and it was really key in the process of making a great program that works well for our service. So even though there's always plenty of room for improvements, and things are always constantly changing and evolving, that's just we just keep reflecting and making those changes as they need. So I guess to just wrap up, I am super passionate about being a director that has a really healthy working environment, that we have really meaningful connections with children, and that we see children as capable and confident learners. And I think a big one for me is being seen. I really want our sector to be seen as a profession that teaches all the other professions. We're the foundation of where children start, and we are who get children excited about learning. And I think my final one is critical reflection, because it will always drive quality improvement and change, which is always exciting, and moving in a direction that means that everyone's going to be happy and in a great working environment. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. So thanks.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Tammy. All right, over to you, Danny.
Oi, tudo bem? Hi, how are you? My name is Danielle. I am originally from Brazil, and I have my graduation, my bachelor, from Brazil as well. I graduated over 20-something years ago, and I was lucky enough that from the beginning, on my first semester, I got a job as an assistant in a classroom of a really good teacher. From the beginning, most of the children with more challenging behaviors, they were really drawn to me. And I seemed to have like a special touch with them, because they were always able to listen to me, and we always created a really good bond. Then, when I was graduating it, I just thought I needed something special. I needed to learn a different language so I could work in a bilingual school, so I could grow in my career in Brazil. So I decided to go to New Zealand to learn English and just go back to Brazil and teach in a bilingual school. The thing is that after I moved to New Zealand in 2006, I was able to secure a job as a teacher only after 9 months that I started living there. And it was life-changing. The education in New Zealand just blew me away. The curriculum, the approaches, the philosophies, everything was really, really amazing. And I just stayed. And I never went back to Brazil, only for holidays. In New Zealand, I actually had my son, Vinny. He's now 12 years old. And after living there for 10 years, we decided to move to Australia, to the Gold Coast, because we were searching for the sun and for a better lifestyle. Don't get me wrong, I loved New Zealand. I loved working there. I loved living there. But I did miss the sun and the beaches with more like a little bit of a warmer water temperature, because the water in New Zealand was freezing. Anyway, so I moved to Australia and I brought my whole experience in New Zealand, being a teacher, a head teacher, and a childcare director for a couple of years. And I brought this experience with me and did some work as an ECT in a center while I was still looking for a director position. And I was really lucky to find a job in one of a very well-known childcare center on the Gold Coast in Currumbin. I managed a center for 5 years. It was an amazing learning experience, an amazing way to understand more about the Australian curriculum, the Australian national standards. And now I've been working for the past 2 years. I've been working in a community kindergarten. My passion is behavior guidance, children development, brain development. I love this area. I love guiding educators. I have a business on the side as a consultant where I do consultancy for childcare centers in regards to staff training, lifting high standards, getting ready for assessment and rating, and just delivering workshops on Reggio Emilia approach, which is one of my biggest passions. Anything related to child-led, having the environment as a third teacher, and of course behavior guidance. I do believe that the foundation of every learning is the connection that we have with children and families. Learning will only happen if that happens. It is the same thing as a director. It only will happen, the learning from your staff or with your staff is only going to happen if you have a connection with them, if you can relate to them. I hope it makes sense to you. I'm really looking forward for this podcast with these two beautiful girls. It is an exciting journey and I'm so happy to be part of.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of The Collaborative Approach in Education. We hope that you can join us next time for more insightful discussions on this important sector. Until then, keep inspiring young minds. And if you have any feedback or any topics that you'd like us to discuss, please let us know in the comments below.